Yes, you read that right. My daughter-in-law manipulated my son-in-law to divorce my daughter. And no, I didn't let her get away with it. I waited. I watched. And when the time was right, I took her apart piece by piece, starting with the lies she once whispered like perfume into his ears. My name is Eleanor. I'm 78 years old, and until recently, I believed that no woman could be more dangerous than a jealous mistress. I was wrong. A daughter-in-law with a smile sharper than a blade and a heart full of envy? That's far worse. And Claire, she wore her malice like makeup, layered and flawless. The first time I saw her look at my daughter, Lily, it wasn't with affection. It was hunger. Quiet. Calculated. Cold. Lily had it all: beauty, kindness, a husband who adored her, and a home filled with laughter. Claire had a home too. But she wanted something else: control, attention, and above all, the power to break someone simply because she could. She wasn't content being married to my son, Daniel. She wanted to leave her mark on everyone in this family, including Nathan, my son-in-law, Lily's husband. It started with whispers. Claire knew how to play innocent. A gentle word here, a concerned comment there. She'd sigh and say things like, "I probably shouldn't mention this, but I saw Lily messaging someone late last night." It was probably nothing. Nathan. She planted doubts like weeds, and Nathan, the fool, watered them with growing suspicion. Then came the change. Nathan stopped laughing with Lily. He started sleeping in the guest room. He forgot anniversaries, stopped holding her hand. And Lily, she tried harder. Cooking his favorite meals, writing sweet notes, waiting by the window like a ghost of herself. And then, one morning, it happened. She walked into my room, barefoot, pale, holding divorce papers and trembling hands. "He says I'm a liar, Mom," she whispered. "That I've been hiding things. That he can't even look at me anymore." My blood froze. I held her as she collapsed, sobbing into my lap like she did when she was 5. But this time, I couldn't promise it would all be okay. I looked up, and Claire was standing in the hallway. Her face was calm, almost smug. She didn't even pretend to feel bad. Just turned and walked away, like she'd done exactly what she came to do. That's when I knew. Claire had destroyed Lily's marriage with intention, not accident. With calculation, not emotion. And now, I had a choice. Stay silent and watch my daughter waste away in shame. Or fight back. And if Claire thought I was too old to fight, she was about to learn the hard way what it means to cross a mother who's got nothing left to lose. If you've ever seen someone ruin an innocent life with a smile, drop a comment. Like, share, and subscribe to Whispers and Wills to follow every dark twist of this story. The house was quieter after Lily left. That's what heartbreak sounds like, not sobs or screaming. Just silence. A silence that settles into the wallpaper and rots everything it touches. I didn't speak much that week. Neither did Daniel. And Claire. Oh, Claire thrived in that silence. She moved through the halls like a queen finally uncrowned, humming while she stirred her coffee, flipping her blonde hair like she'd just won a battle. But I was watching. I watched the way she'd pause outside Daniel's room when she thought no one noticed. The way she whispered to him behind closed doors, touching his shoulder just a little too long. I watched how she smiled, wide and sweet, whenever Lily's name came up, like she was enjoying the sound of it burning. And Daniel, my son. God, how blind he was. He used to be Lily's protector growing up, her fierce older brother. But now he clung to Claire like a man hypnotized. And the more I watched them, the more I realized something terrifying. Claire hadn't just poisoned Nathan against Lily. She was doing the same to Daniel, slowly, methodically. Turning him cold, turning him cruel. One evening, I found her in the living room folding laundry, humming a lullaby I used to sing to Lily when she was little. It turned my stomach. I said nothing, but she looked up at me, eyes wide with mock innocence. "Eleanor, would you mind not putting Lily's old things in the dryer anymore? It's just, They're kind of in the way. I stared at her. They're my daughter's clothes. This is her home. She smiled sweetly. Was her home? My hands trembled, but I clenched them behind my back. Not yet. Revenge is like surgery, it only works when you cut at the right time. So I nodded. She thought I was yielding, that I was getting old and soft, that I was defeated. That night, I went into Lily's room and sat on her bed in the dark. The air still smelled like her lavender and warm linen. I opened her closet, touched her sweaters, her old books, the wedding photo she had tucked away behind the mirror. Her eyes were so full of love in that picture. And then I saw it. A handwritten letter, unsent, folded between the pages of a journal. I read it by the hallway light, heart pounding. It was addressed to me. A letter Lily had written days before she left, but never had the strength to give. Mom, I know you love Claire. I tried to love her too, but something about her scares me. She's always around Nathan when I'm not. I hear things, feel things. I know how this sounds, but I don't think it's just me imagining it anymore. I think she wants to destroy me. And I think she's doing it slowly, quietly, while everyone thinks she's perfect. If something happens, please don't trust her. My hands went cold. The clock in the hall struck midnight. That was the moment everything changed. I stood, folded the letter carefully, and placed it inside my bra, next to my heart. From that second on, I stopped being Eleanor the widow. Eleanor the quiet old woman. I became something else. And the first cut I made wasn't with a knife. It was with truth. And truth, when sharpened, can slice deeper than any blade. People always think revenge is loud. Screaming, broken plates, threats and tears. But that's not how real women do it. No. Real revenge is slow. Cold. Like a wilted rose in a crystal vase. Still beautiful, but quietly rotting from the inside out. The morning after I found Lily's letter, I made Claire her favorite tea. Jasmine, no sugar, just a hint of honey. I watched her take the cup, smile, and say, "You're too good to me, Eleanor." I smiled back. She had no idea the game had already started. I began small. Gentle disruptions. Nothing she could trace. I moved her car keys one day. Put them in the freezer. She blamed Daniel. Another day, I unplugged the Wi-Fi router before she had a virtual meeting with her boss. She screamed at Daniel for not paying the bill. He looked confused, frustrated. The cracks were microscopic, but they were beginning. I started dropping little comments around the house, always casually. When Daniel was in earshot, I'd sigh and say things like, "Lily always said Nathan used to compliment Claire too much. I guess some men just get too comfortable around their brother-in-law's wife." Or, "It's strange how often Claire was alone with Nathan during those months Lily was working late." Never accusations. Just seeds. Little drops of poison that didn't smell like poison. And I watched Daniel. He started asking questions. Not out loud, but his eyes shifted. He'd glance at Claire longer. He didn't laugh at her jokes as much. He turned away when she touched him. She noticed. Of course she did. One night, she cornered me in the kitchen while I was slicing apples. Her voice was sugary sweet, but her fingers clenched the counter like a vice. "Is there a reason," she said slowly, "you've been acting off with me lately?" I looked up, smiled warmly. "Off? Oh, darling, no. You're just imagining it. You know how grief makes people strange." She tilted her head. "It's been 6 months since Lily moved out." "Yes," I said, placing a slice in my mouth. "But grief doesn't operate on a schedule. And neither does guilt." Her eyes narrowed. For the first time, I saw her mask crack, just a flicker, like a window during a storm that rattles but doesn't break. She turned without a word and walked away. Good. Let her feel the floor shifting beneath her heels. Let her feel watched. That night, I went to the attic and opened the old cedar chest where I kept everything from Lily's childhood. Drawings, report cards, birthday cards. I pulled out her college laptop, dusted it off, and powered it up. Took hours to guess the password. But eventually I cracked it. And what I found? Emails. Dozens of them. Between Claire and Nathan. Not romantic, not quite. But intimate. Too intimate. You and I just understand each other in ways they don't. Sometimes I wonder if I married the wrong sister. If things were different. Maybe you and I printed everyone. Kept them in a sealed envelope beneath my mattress. Proof. Ammunition. This wasn't just sabotage anymore. This was betrayal at a molecular level. And Claire thought she was safe because no one ever suspected the smiling ones. She was wrong. I wasn't just coming for her comfort anymore. I was coming for her existence. There's something about a narcissist that makes them believe they're untouchable, especially when everyone calls them beautiful. Claire was obsessed with her reflection. Every morning, without fail, she'd sit in front of her vanity for at least an hour, blending foundation and secrets, applying mascara like armor, glossing her lies into a perfect shine. So that's where I attacked next. Not with knives. With mirrors. I began with something simple. I took a copy of one of those printed emails between her and Nathan, trimmed it carefully, and slipped it inside one of her makeup drawers beneath her expensive blush palettes. I knew she'd find it eventually. And she did. I was watering the plants near the hallway when I heard her gasp. Then a drawer slam. Then silence. I didn't look. Didn't need to. Because 10 minutes later, she came down with her face tight, her steps sharper than usual, and her voice brittle. "Eleanor," she said, "have you been going through my things?" I blinked, confused. Why on earth would I do that? She stared at me. Because someone put something in my drawer. Something they shouldn't have. I tilted my head. Like what? She hesitated. She couldn't say it out loud. That would mean confessing. Naming the shame. And women like Claire don't like to admit they're vulnerable. They prefer to pretend it was all under control. "Never mind," she said, tight-lipped. "Just stay out of my space, okay?" I smiled. "Of course, dear. Would you like some tea?" She didn't answer. The next day, I replaced her favorite face serum with a bottle of cheap drugstore lotion. Identical container. She didn't notice until her skin started reacting. A rash. Small. Red bumps under her eyes and chin. Nothing dangerous. Just enough to ruin her glow. She wore sunglasses inside the house for 2 days straight. Daniel asked about it. She said it was allergies. But I saw the panic blooming beneath her pride. She was unraveling. Still, I wasn't satisfied. I needed her to feel exposed. And humiliated. And so, I took the next step. Daniel had a work dinner coming up. Important. Formal. He invited Claire, of course. And she, ever the peacock, spent an entire week planning her outfit. A red designer gown. Gold heels. Hair pinned up just so. She wanted to stun everyone. Especially the wives of his co-workers. The night before the dinner, I pretended to be helpful. "Oh, let me steam your dress for you," I said sweetly. "You'll be busy with your nails." She actually smiled. "Thanks, Eleanor. That's kind of you." I steamed it. Then I took the tiniest pair of sewing scissors and made a careful incision no more than half an inch along the side seam. Invisible to the eye. But the moment she sat or turned too sharply, well, she wore the dress the next evening with all the arrogance of a woman who thinks the world still bows at her feet. They didn't even make it out the door. Daniel was tying his tie. Claire walked to the hallway mirror to check her lipstick. She twisted, just slightly, and the sound of tearing fabric echoed through the house. She gasped. Looked down. A gash right along her hip, exposing skin and silk underwear. She screamed. Daniel turned, startled. "What the hell happened?" Claire stammered. I don't know. It just ripped. It's brand new." He snapped. "You paid $900 for that dress, Claire." She looked at me. I raised an eyebrow. "Poor stitching, maybe?" Her face flushed with fury. But she couldn't accuse me. Not without sounding paranoid. She ran upstairs to change, and they left 40 minutes late. Daniel was furious. She barely spoke the rest of the night. And I sat by the fireplace that evening, sewing quietly, smiling. The queen's crown had slipped, and I was the one tipping it inch by inch. There's a special kind of pleasure in watching a liar panic over a truth they didn't know you had. Claire thought she was clever. She thought deleting the emails between her and Nathan meant they were gone forever. But her arrogance blinded her to one very important fact. I've lived 7 decades. I know how to keep evidence. The emails I printed weren't just for safekeeping anymore. They were weapons. And it was time to launch the first strike. Not at Claire. At Daniel. He'd been quiet lately. Distant. He didn't smile as much around her. He barely touched her. The glamorous spell she used to keep him spellbound was wearing off. But he still hadn't seen the truth. He still believed the lie that his sister, my daughter, was the one who ruined her own marriage. So I gave him a reason to reconsider. One morning, I left the envelope of printed emails on the seat of his car. No note. No explanation. Just truth, sealed in silence. He left for work without seeing it. But by noon, the world shifted. I heard it first, the front door slamming open. Then footsteps. Angry. Heavy. Daniel's voice bellowed down the hallway. "Claire, what the hell is this?" She shrieked something back, but I didn't make out the words. I stayed where I was in the garden, pruning the roses. My hands were steady. Their shouting ricocheted through the house. "I trusted you, it was nothing. Those messages didn't mean anything. Maybe you married the wrong sister?" That's what you said to him? While Lily was in the next room. "It wasn't like that. You told me she was cheating on Nathan." I only said that because I thought." Silence. I could almost hear the moment Daniel realized he'd been lied to, manipulated. And then I heard a sound I hadn't heard in months. A door slammed again, but this time it was Claire's. And Daniel left the house. Alone. That night, she didn't come down for dinner. She stayed in her room, curled up like a shadow. I passed her door once, just to listen. No sobs. No calls. Just silence. That was when I knew the seed I planted had bloomed. But I wasn't finished. A few days later, I visited Lily. She was living in a small studio apartment now. Still fragile. Still thin. She opened the door in an oversized sweater, her eyes cautious. "Mom?" I hugged her. Held her tight. "I'm fixing it," I whispered. She didn't ask how. But she let me in. We drank tea together, and for the first time in months, she smiled. It was faint. Tired. But real. And I knew I had to give her more than just a broken Claire. I had to give her back her name. The next step would do that. I opened an anonymous social media account, and I began posting screenshots, blurred names, dates scrubbed out, but the words? They were damning. You and I just understand each other in ways they don't. Sometimes I wonder if I married the wrong sister. If things were different, the posts spread fast. They were shared in private forums, local gossip pages, even workplace chats. The timing was perfect. Claire had just applied for a PR position with a nonprofit that valued family integrity as its motto. She didn't get the job. And suddenly, the calls stopped coming. Her social circle thinned. People were too polite to confront her, but too curious to look away. The whispers followed her into every room. Her reputation, once polished like crystal, was now fogged with suspicion. She blamed Daniel. Then she blamed hackers. But deep down, I think she knew. This wasn't some random storm. This was a woman's vengeance. Methodical, patient, and beautifully executed. There's a point when even the best liars stop believing their own lies. Claire had always been poised, controlled. Even her laughter had been manicured, polished like a wine glass. But now, that polish was peeling. She was unraveling, and she didn't even know who to blame. That was the delicious part. She couldn't prove anything, but she felt everything. Daniel moved out 2 days after the email fight. Quietly. He took a small suitcase and didn't say goodbye. She stood by the kitchen window, arms crossed, eyes glassy. She didn't cry. Not then. But I knew it would come. That night, she stormed into the kitchen while I was chopping carrots. Her voice was hoarse, trembling, not with fear, with desperation. "Tell me the truth," she hissed. "Did you do this? Are you the one behind all this?" I didn't even flinch. Behind what? You know what I'm talking about. The emails, the posts, Daniel leaving, everyone avoiding me like I have a disease. I set the knife down slowly, wiped my hands on a towel. Then I looked her dead in the eyes. If your world is collapsing, Claire, maybe it wasn't built that well to begin with. She stared at me, furious, speechless. Her bottom lip trembled, and for a flicker of a second, I saw the real Claire. Not the makeup, not the smirk, just a scared, cruel woman who had finally lost control. She turned on her heel and left. 2 nights later, the house smelled like wine and perfume. I found her in the living room, slumped on the couch, mascara smeared, half a bottle of Merlot spilling on the rug. She didn't speak, just stared at the dark TV screen like it might show her a different version of her life if she waited long enough. I almost pitied her. Almost. But then I remembered Lily's face the day she left, puffy from crying, her bags packed by trembling hands, and that final whisper, "She wants to destroy me." So I left Claire to rot in her silence. But I wasn't done. See, there was one more thing Claire loved more than herself, her status. Her precious public image. She was on the committee of the local women's leadership circle. They hosted events, published interviews, posted about empowering women and protecting families. She adored the attention. So I sent them an envelope. Inside, a USB. Inside that, the full email thread between Claire and Nathan, timestamps, headers, screenshots of Claire logged into Lily's Facebook account. Yes, I had found that too. She had gone through Lily's messages, tracked her schedule, even deleted one of her voicemails to Nathan during their fights. Manipulation on record. They dropped her from the board within a week. She got an email. No meeting. No chance to explain. Just a polite little paragraph about how, in light of recent concerns, the board has voted to discontinue your involvement effective immediately. She screamed. Broke a vase. I watched from the hallway, quiet. And then she did something I never expected. She walked into the kitchen and looked at me, tears streaking down her cheeks, lips trembling, and whispered, "Why are you doing this to me? What did I ever do to you?" I stood there, stunned. Because even now, she didn't understand. She really believed she was innocent. I stepped close, gently lifted her chin with my hand, and said, "You didn't just destroy Lily's marriage. You destroyed her spirit. You made her question her sanity, her worth. You wanted her to disappear. So now I leaned in. I'm making you disappear." She staggered back like I'd slapped her. But I hadn't. That slap was still coming. And in next story, she won't just lose her image. She'll lose the one thing she never thought I could take. Her control. There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't make noise when it enters, it waits until it's cornered. Then it explodes. Claire had always been the type who smiled at neighbors with perfect teeth, waved at children in strollers, donated clothes to charity, only to come home and wipe her fingerprints off every ounce of sincerity she had just performed. But now, her smile was gone, and so was her control. I decided to take the final step in peeling back her mask. See, Claire never knew that Lily had recorded a conversation 1 month before the divorce. I didn't know either until I found the audio file buried in her old laptop, tucked away in a folder labeled "just in case." It was just 43 seconds long, but those 43 seconds were enough to scorch everything Claire had built. In the recording, Claire's voice was unmistakable, Your husband isn't bored, Lily. He's just tired of being married to someone who plays house instead of being exciting. That's why he texts me. Because I understand him. And then a laugh. Not a funny one. A cruel one. Cold. Triumphant. But don't worry, when he leaves you, I'll keep him company. Wouldn't want the poor man to feel too alone. I played that clip again and again in my head for 3 days. Each time, it filled my veins with fire. Lily never shared it. She was too ashamed. Too scared no one would believe her. But I believed her now. And I believe the world deserved to hear it. So I made copies. Not digital. CDs. Real, physical discs. Old-fashioned and undeniable. I placed them in blank envelopes and delivered them to just 5 people. 1. Claire's pastor. 2. Her hairdresser. 3. The president of her book club. 4. Her yoga instructor. 5. And Mrs. Harper, the woman who ran the neighborhood newsletter. I didn't add a return address. I didn't need to. By 5 p.m., 3 people had called the house looking for Claire. By 6:15, Mrs. Harper had emailed the entire HOA warning that someone had been exposed. By 7 o'clock, Claire knew. She came bursting into the kitchen, red-faced, hair tangled, her phone shaking in her hand. "You disgusting, vindictive witch," she screamed. "You think you're clever? You think you can ruin me?" I didn't raise my voice. I simply looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You ruined yourself. I just removed the curtain." She lost it. I've never seen rage like that from a woman so used to manipulation. She lunged forward like she meant to strike me, but I stepped back and let her flail. She hit the refrigerator instead, slid down to the floor, and started sobbing. Loud, gasping, ugly sobs. The kind of sobbing that carries through walls. That neighbor's here. That makes dogs bark and porch lights flicker on. I stood over her and waited. When she looked up, her voice cracked like splintered glass. "Why are you doing this to me?" "I just wanted what I deserved." I knelt beside her. "You mean you wanted what Lily deserved?" She froze. "You wanted her husband, her life, her joy, and when you couldn't have it, you crushed it." Claire pulled her knees into her chest. "I don't have anyone left," she whispered. I stood. "No. And soon, you won't even have this house." Because yes, I'd already made a few calls. She was behind on payments. And Daniel? He'd already transferred the deed into a shared trust, one I now had access to. She didn't know yet. But she would. Soon. But what happened next will leave you breathless. The walls around Claire will quite literally come crashing down. Because I'm not just breaking her spirit now. I'm taking her home. You don't truly break someone until you take away the ground beneath their feet. Not metaphorically. Literally. Claire still believed the house gave her power. She walked through its hallways like a queen mourning a kingdom, still slamming doors, still shouting into the silence, as if anyone was still listening. As if I hadn't already buried her reputation, her marriage, and her social life beneath layers of scandal and proof. But I wasn't done yet. She had one comfort left. And I was going to steal it while she slept. It started with the trust documents. Daniel and I had quietly made changes. He'd already removed Claire from any claim to the property. The mortgage had 3 missed payments, and I knew for a fact she hadn't noticed. She didn't understand money. She only understood attention, status, and control. I handled the paperwork during one of her wine-soaked evenings. She never saw the realtor's card on my desk. Never saw the man who came to do a quiet walk-through while she was passed out in the upstairs bathroom, face down beside an empty bottle of Cabernet and a shattered glass. The house went on the market that same week. I listed it under my maiden name and sold it to a buyer who didn't blink at the price. Within 10 days, the sale was final. And I let her live in the house 3 more nights before telling her. The morning I did, the sky was gray and windless. I made her coffee. She didn't say thank you. Just sat in her wrinkled robe, still trying to play queen even as her castle turned to ash. I placed a crisp white envelope in front of her. "What's this?" she asked. "The deed transfer," I said. "You don't live here anymore." She laughed. At first. Then opened it. I watched the blood drain from her face. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I already did." Her voice sharpened, a shriek rising from her throat. "Where am I supposed to go?" I tilted my head. "That's not really my concern." She stood abruptly, the chair screeching across the tile. "You're evil." I stepped forward, close enough for her to smell the lavender lotion on my hands. "No, I'm efficient." Claire stormed upstairs. She began throwing things into a suitcase, shirts, shoes, bottles of perfume, all with no sense of order. I didn't help. I stood at the bottom of the staircase, arms folded, watching the woman who tried to erase my daughter now panic like a child caught stealing candy. As she came down the stairs, dragging 2 half-zipped bags behind her, she paused. "I'll go to Daniel. He won't let this stand. He already signed the transfer." Silence. Then something I hadn't expected. A flicker of fear. Real, raw fear. She looked around, at the walls, the chandelier she'd bragged about at every dinner party, the marble counters she never cleaned, the staircase she never climbed without a glass in hand. This wasn't just a house to her. It was a stage. And I had just closed the curtain. "Where will I go?" she asked again, but this time it wasn't a demand. It was a plea. I stared at her. "Try the women's shelter on Greeley Avenue. They take in people who destroy families." Her eyes widened. "Or," I added, "you could ask Nathan. See if he still thinks you're exciting." She didn't answer. She just left. No hug. No apology. Not even a door slammed this time. She was too tired. Or maybe she finally realized she'd been playing chess with someone who already owned the board. And me? I walked back inside my house, shut the door, and for the first time in over a year, I laughed. But next, a knock at my door changes everything. Because the woman I thought was broken might not be finished yet. And this time, she has nothing to lose. I should have known she wouldn't go quietly. People like Claire don't accept endings they didn't write. I thought taking her house would be the last chapter. But I underestimated something dark and primal, the chaos of a woman with nothing left to lose. It started 3 days after she left. I was sipping tea in the early evening when the knock came. Soft, polite, almost cautious. I opened the door expecting the mailman, maybe a neighbor. But it wasn't. It was Claire. She looked different. Cleaner, in a way. Her makeup was gone, hair tied back loosely. She wore an oversized coat that didn't belong to her. It looked like something from a donation bin. But her eyes? Sharp, alert, and cold. "Can I come in?" she asked, voice syrupy. "Just to talk." I didn't move. "You need to leave." Her lips curled into a smile that never touched her eyes. "Eleanor, come on. We're family." I nearly laughed. "No, Claire. We were collateral damage to you. Lily was your pawn. I was your obstacle. And Daniel." I leaned forward. "He was just your prize." She stepped back, just slightly, then straightened. "I just wanted to say goodbye." Considerate said. I closed the door in her face. Or tried to. Her foot slid in, blocking it. "Move," I said. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," she whispered. There it was, that unhinged glint, the flash of the woman who had whispered poison into my daughter's marriage and smiled while doing it. "What are you threatening me with now? Gossip? Rumors? The only thing you have left is bitterness." Her smile disappeared. "Wrong. I have truths. Ugly little truths you wouldn't want Daniel or Lily to hear. You want to keep playing saint, Eleanor? Or should I start leaking what I know about you?" And then she said it. She said Lily wasn't as blameless as I thought. That she had secrets. That Claire had proof. I froze. "You're bluffing," I said flatly. She tilted her head. "Try me." Then she turned and walked away. Didn't scream. Didn't break anything. She just left me standing in my doorway, the cool air swallowing the warmth out of my bones. That night, I didn't sleep. Because Claire wasn't just making noise. She was digging. And if she found something to twist, anything, even a sliver of truth, she would use it like a knife. The next morning, Daniel called. He didn't mention Claire. He mentioned Lily. Mom, did Lily ever tell you about what happened the night she went to Chicago alone? I felt my throat tighten. What do you mean? I got a message this morning, anonymous. Said she wasn't alone. That there was someone else. And that it's why Claire got involved. My fingers went numb. She's trying to drive a wedge again, I whispered. She might succeed, he said quietly. If this turns out to be real. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. Claire was going after my daughter's integrity. And worse, she might actually have something. But what happened next will leave you breathless. I'll have to face something I wasn't prepared for. The possibility that my daughter made a terrible mistake. And if Claire's telling the truth, this war might turn on me. Denial is a comfortable place to hide until someone drags you out by your hair. All night I paced the hallway, back and forth, hands trembling, stomach tight. Claire's words replayed in my head like a twisted lullaby. She wasn't alone in Chicago. That trip. I remembered it too well. Lily had gone to a women's leadership conference. 3 days, 2 nights. She came back pale. Quiet. Different. I thought it was just the stress of her failing marriage. Now, I wasn't sure. I pulled out Lily's old laptop, the one I'd found the audio clip on. If she had recorded Claire once, maybe she had kept other records too. I opened every folder, every hidden document, every trace of digital memory she hadn't wiped. Then I found it. A journal entry, tucked away in a locked folder labeled Sunday Rain. The password? Her wedding date. My hands shook as I opened it. Chicago. I didn't plan for it to happen. He was just, kind, not like Nathan. He listened. We only talked, but I know it looked like more. The worst part? I liked being seen again. I liked not feeling like someone's shadow. I stopped reading. I closed the laptop. And I sat there, breath knocked out of me. So, it was true. Lily hadn't cheated, but she'd come close. She'd emotionally wandered into someone else's orbit while still married. And if Claire had found out about that, even twisted it into something more, she could have used it. I felt sick. My daughter, the one I'd fought so hard for, had kept a secret that left the door wide open for Claire to slither through. But here's the thing. That didn't excuse Claire. It only explained how she'd found her way in. She wasn't a victim. She was a predator who smelled vulnerability and sank her teeth in. But now she had ammunition. And if I didn't act quickly, she'd turn a near mistake into a full-blown scandal. By mid-morning, I knew what I had to do. I called Lily. Sweetheart, I said carefully, I need to ask you something. About Chicago. The pause on the other end was long. Too long. Then her voice cracked. You read the file, didn't you? I had to. She sighed. I never slept with him, Mom. I swear. But I felt things I shouldn't have. And I hated myself for it. I'm not angry, Lily. You're not. No. But I need you to be honest with Daniel. Before Claire tells him a version of the truth that you can't take back. Lily went quiet again. Then, okay, I'll tell him. Tonight. I believed her. But I didn't believe Claire would wait. And I was right. At 4:37 p.m., my doorbell rang again. I opened it to find a box. No return label. Inside? Printouts. Photos of Lily in Chicago, laughing with a man outside a hotel bar. Just talking, but posed in a way that could be twisted. And beneath the photos? A sticky note. You took my house. I'll take your daughter's marriage. I stood on my front porch, fists clenched, the wind biting at my face. Claire had drawn her next blade. But she'd made one fatal mistake. She thought this was still a game of secrets. She forgot who taught her how to lie in the first place. And in next chapter, I'm going to use her own tactics to turn Daniel against her. Because if she wants to drag Lily's name through the dirt, then I'll bury Claire's name so deep no one will remember how to spell it. If Claire wanted to destroy my daughter with twisted truths, then I'd destroy her with twisted facts. Real ones. Painful ones. The kind of truths you don't whisper, you bury in the dark. She had used people all her life. Men, mostly. Puppets with wallets and egos. Some she discarded quietly. Others she humiliated when she was done. I'd heard the whispers long before she married Daniel. Small-town scandals, affairs that ended in messy silence. I just never had reason to care. Now I did. My first call was to a man named Harold Duncan, a retired contractor, 10 years older than Claire, who she had once dated for a month while still seeing Daniel. He'd called her the best liar I ever loved. I remember those words because he'd said them drunkenly to my sister at a wedding, long before any of us knew how dangerous Claire really was. I told Harold the truth. Claire was threatening to ruin Lily's life, and I needed his help to stop her. To my surprise, he said yes. Then I called another, Paul Everett, a former HR manager who resigned after Claire filed a false complaint when he broke things off. He'd moved 3 states away just to avoid the scandal. Paul agreed too. One by one, I assembled a little army of ghosts. Claire's ex-lovers. Men who had nothing to gain except closure. And revenge. I drafted a statement, cold, factual, devastating. Each man signed it. In total. For detailed accounts of manipulation, infidelity, blackmail, and deceit. I attached timelines, receipts, and screenshots. They were thorough. Undeniable. Rotten to the core. I didn't send them to Daniel yet. No, that wasn't the plan. Instead, I printed every page and left a single, crisp copy in a bright red envelope on Claire's car windshield. Just one line handwritten on the front. Try me again, and this goes to your parents, Daniel, and every job you ever apply for. That evening, she called. No words, just breathing. Then she hung up. She understood. But I wasn't finished. I needed Daniel to see the truth, too, not the vengeance. The facts. So I sat him down. Told him about Lily's journal. Told him about Claire's box of photos. And then I handed him something else, a copy of the unedited hotel security footage that showed Lily and the man parting ways, separately and alone. She made it look like more than it was, I said gently. Because Claire doesn't know how to love. She only knows how to ruin. Daniel stared at the screen. Then whispered, she really fooled me. No, I corrected him. She used you. He didn't say much else. But he stayed for dinner that night. He asked about Lily. And, for the first time in months, he asked if he could see her. In next chapter, Daniel and Lily will come face to face for the first time since the divorce. But Claire isn't gone. Not yet. And the damage she's done may still have a few bombs left ticking in the rubble. When I opened the front door and saw Daniel standing there with tulips in his hands, my heart stopped. Not for him. For her. Lily had spent the last few weeks rebuilding, barely sleeping, barely eating, walking through days like a woman trying to remember who she used to be. She smiled more, but it never reached her eyes. When she saw Daniel again, she froze. He offered the flowers like an apology. She didn't take them. But she didn't shut the door either. I slipped away and let them speak alone in the garden. I watched through the kitchen window, hidden behind the curtain, heart pounding like I was eavesdropping on fate. I read the journal, Daniel said softly. I figured you would, Lily replied, voice tight. You didn't cheat on me. No, she said. But I wanted to feel like someone wanted me, like I mattered. You didn't even notice when I stopped talking at dinner. He looked like a man who'd been kicked in the chest. I didn't know how unhappy you were, he said. You didn't want to know. That hung in the air a long time. Then he looked at her and said the one thing that almost broke her. I never stopped loving you. She didn't say anything for a long while. But when I saw her take the flowers, finally, I knew something had shifted. Maybe not forgiveness, but something like it. A beginning, not an ending. But just as I let myself hope, the phone rang. I almost didn't answer. But when I did, the voice on the other end froze the blood in my veins. It was Claire. "You really think this is over, Eleanor?" "You have nothing left," I said. "Your reputation's burned. Your marriage is gone. Your lies are dead. You lost." She chuckled. "Low. Cruel. Oh, you poor thing. I never planned to win. I just needed you to lose something too." And then she said it. She had video. One I didn't know about. Of me. Months ago in her house, before the divorce, when I came over late at night and threatened her with legal action if she didn't back off Lily. I remembered yelling. I remembered the wine glass I smashed in fury. I remembered saying, "If you don't walk away from my daughter, I will ruin you." She had recorded it, without me knowing. And worse? She had edited the footage to make it look like I had blackmailed her. "Imagine what your little followers would say," Claire whispered. "Your neighbors. The board you serve on. Daniel. You're bluffing," I hissed. "Check your email," she sang, and hung up. I ran to my laptop, and there it was. The file. Cut. Cropped. Spliced. I sounded deranged. Threatening. Like she had been the victim all along. And in the subject line, "You have until midnight to confess everything, or I will." In next chapter, I'll have to choose, protect my name or protect my daughter. Because this isn't just revenge anymore. Claire wants to erase me completely. And the only way to stop her may be to destroy myself first. I stared at the video like it had teeth. It was expertly done, cropped at just the right moment, my voice distorted with rage, the wine glass shattering like a gunshot in the background. I looked unhinged, violent, manipulative. And Claire? She looked like the helpless victim of an unstable mother-in-law. She had edited out her part entirely. The goading, the threats, the way she smirked when she told me Lily deserved to be humiliated. All of it gone. But none of that mattered now. Because I knew what this video could do. To me. To Lily. To Daniel. To the fragile pieces we had just started gluing back together. And Claire knew it too. That's why she didn't send the video to anyone yet. She wanted me to do her work for her. Confess. Ruin myself. Or wait for her to do it with one click. My phone buzzed. Another message from her. 11:14 p.m. Tick-tock. I sat alone in my kitchen, phone in one hand, a glass of scotch in the other. The irony wasn't lost on me. Months ago I had smashed a glass in that monster's home. Now I was holding one like a funeral toast to myself. I could wait until midnight. Hope she was bluffing. But Claire didn't bluff. She destroyed. And I taught her too well. So I made my choice. I opened my laptop. I wrote an email. To Daniel. To Lily. To the church committee. To the neighborhood council. Everyone who mattered. Everyone who could be touched by her lie. I attached the unedited version of the video, the one I still had from the security camera outside her home, which showed me entering calmly and Claire smirking as she opened the door. I included the audio files Lily had recorded, proof of Claire's manipulation, her sick joy in dismantling their marriage. And finally, I attached my own written confession. Yes, I threatened Claire. Yes, I crossed lines to protect my daughter. No, I wasn't proud. But I would do it all again. Because when you watch someone break your child and you still have a voice, you scream, even if it ruins you. I hit send at 11:46 p.m. And then I waited. Claire never replied. Because I had taken the one thing she couldn't handle, control. The next morning, Daniel called. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," I said truthfully. He paused. I read everything, watched everything, and he sighed. "I don't blame you." Tears slipped down my cheeks. "I might not agree with everything you did, Eleanor," he added, "but I finally understand why." And then the unexpected. He invited Lily to dinner. Not to rekindle. Not yet. but to talk. Alone. And for the first time in a long time, I saw something on my daughter's face I hadn't seen since the wedding. Hope. In next chapter, Claire will make her final, desperate move, this time not with lies, but with violence. Because when a woman like Claire is cornered, she doesn't surrender. She erupts. There's a silence that comes before the worst moments in life. A quiet so thick, you can hear your own heartbeat like a war drum in your ears. That was the sound I heard when I opened the door and saw Claire standing in my kitchen at 3:02 a.m. Yes, inside. No knocking. No warning. She had broken in. Her hair was wet with rain, eyes glassy, and in her hand was the garden shears from my back porch. She twirled them lazily like a toy, like they weren't capable of carving bone. "I should have destroyed you when I had the chance," she whispered. I didn't move, didn't scream. My phone was in the other room. My hands were shaking. "You think you're clever, Eleanor," she said, stepping closer. "Sending out all your little files and videos, thinking you won." I met her eyes. "I didn't do it to win." She laughed. A sick choke sound. "No, you did it because you thought Daniel would choose her again. Your broken little daughter." She slammed the shears down on the counter, inches from my hand. I didn't flinch. "You ruined my life," she spat. "No," I said calmly, "you did that yourself. I just showed everyone the part you kept hidden." She leaned closer, face twisted. "I loved him," she hissed. "I gave him everything. And he still wanted that spineless little girl over me." "She was never yours to take," I said. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Then maybe I'll just take you instead." And that's when I moved. I grabbed the pan from the stove and swung. It collided with her shoulder, and she screamed, dropping the shears. I didn't hesitate. I kicked them across the floor, out of reach, and shoved her back with every ounce of strength I had. But she didn't run. She lunged. We tumbled to the floor, her nails digging into my cheek, my hand clawing for the drawer, any drawer, until my fingers closed around the pepper spray I kept by habit, never thinking I'd need it. I sprayed blindly. She shrieked, stumbling back, hands over her face. I scrambled up and grabbed the shears. "Don't come near me again," I said, my voice shaking. She snarled, blind and breathless, staggering to the door. But before she fled, she turned. "You think this is over?" she rasped. "You don't even know what she's hiding." Then she disappeared into the night. I collapsed on the floor, chest heaving, blood trickling down my neck where her nails had raked skin. But I didn't cry. Not yet. Because her last words echoed louder than any scream. "You don't even know what she's hiding." She wasn't talking about me. She was talking about Lily. In next chapter, I'll discover the secret my daughter has been hiding from all of us, and it might explain everything. Even the part of Claire's madness I hadn't understood, until now. The morning after Claire broke into my home, I expected panic. Police lights, neighbors whispering, broken glass and flashing cameras. But instead, there was silence. I called the police, of course. Filed the report, gave them her name, her last known address, showed them the bruises on my face and the scratches on my arms. But Claire had vanished, like a ghost that knew when to slip between the cracks. Daniel came over that afternoon. He brought Lily with him. Her hands trembled when she saw my injuries. "She did this to you?" Lily whispered, her face pale. "She's unraveling," I said. But before she left, she said something strange. Lily stiffened. "She said you're hiding something," I said carefully. "That I don't even know who you really are." My daughter went still, completely still. The way someone does when they're weighing whether to lie again or finally let go. Daniel looked between us, confused. "Lily?" She closed her eyes. And then, she spoke. "There's something I never told you," she whispered. "Not you, Mom. Not even you, Daniel." Her voice cracked. "It wasn't just loneliness that made me talk to that man at the hotel." I didn't breathe. She swallowed. "I was pregnant. For months. And I'd just lost the baby. Daniel's face went white. Lily continued, eyes fixed on the floor. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't even tell Claire. I only told that man because he was a stranger. He didn't know me. He couldn't judge me. Silence wrapped the room like a noose. Daniel spoke first. You were pregnant? Lily nodded slowly. I lost the baby the day after your birthday. I was alone when it happened. You were away on business. Claire was the only one who called, and when I told her, she laughed. She said maybe it was for the best, that I wasn't meant to be a mother. I felt my stomach turn. Claire had known. She'd known and still twisted the knife. Still painted my daughter as a monster to Daniel. Still whispered poison into his ear. And Lily, my sweet broken Lily, had carried it all in silence. I thought maybe I deserved to be punished, Lily whispered, for not telling the truth, for not being strong enough. Daniel reached for her hand. You didn't deserve any of this. Neither of them said another word for a long time. Eventually, Lily went upstairs to rest. Daniel followed behind her, and I stayed in the kitchen, alone with this new truth. My daughter had been drowning for years, and I hadn't even seen her slip under. Claire didn't just break a marriage. She shattered two people already bleeding from invisible wounds. In next chapter, I'll finally uncover where Claire is hiding and what she's planning next. Because women like her don't just disappear. They reload. I didn't sleep that night. Even with the doors locked, windows checked, and pepper spray in my hand, I couldn't shut my eyes. Claire's voice haunted me like smoke curling under the door. You don't even know what she's hiding. Well, now I did. Lily had lost her baby. Alone. Grieving in silence while her husband was away and her mother-in-law, Claire, was mocking her pain like it was entertainment. I understood now why Lily had reached out to that stranger. It hadn't been betrayal, it had been a cry for air while she drowned. But now that truth was out in the open, Claire had no more power. Or so I thought. Until I checked my mail. A plain envelope. No return address. Inside, a photograph. Grainy, zoomed in, but unmistakable. Lily, at the coffee shop near her office, sitting across from a man. Not the stranger from the hotel, someone else. A new man. A new meeting. Dated yesterday. My hands went cold. On the back of the photo was a handwritten note in red ink. Some women never learn. Guess heartbreak runs in the family. Claire was watching her. Still, even now. I dialed Lily in a panic. Did you meet someone yesterday? She hesitated. Just a coworker, Mom. We grabbed coffee to talk about a project. I almost believed her. But Claire didn't take blurry photos of nothing. She wanted me to think something was happening, or she knew something I didn't. Daniel came by again later that day. He'd been quieter since Lily's confession, but he was trying to believe her, trying to trust again. And Claire, the snake, was trying to poison him again, through me. I knew what she wanted. Another wedge. Another crack in something fragile. So I did what I had to do. I found her. It wasn't difficult. People like Claire always think they're invincible. Sooner or later, they get sloppy. An old friend from the city saw her checking into a motel just outside town. Cheap. Isolated. The kind of place where no one asks questions. I didn't tell the police. Not yet. I needed to look her in the eyes first. I needed to end this my way. The sun was setting when I pulled into the parking lot. Her car was there, windows covered in towels, license plates removed. But it was hers. I'd know that scratched bumper anywhere. I knocked on her door. No answer. But I knew she was in there. I slipped the motel manager a $50 bill. Told him I was her sister and that she'd gone missing. He gave me the spare key. The smell hit me first when I opened the door. Rotten fruit. Sweat. Cigarettes. And something else. Something bitter. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, staring at a wall smeared with lipstick messages. She didn't even flinch. Come to finish me off? She muttered. No, I said. I came to stop you before you hurt Lily again. She smiled, slowly. You think you've won. But your daughter, she's not innocent, Eleanor. Not even close. She's healing. She's pretending. I stepped closer. She's meeting another man. She didn't tell Daniel. You think I faked that photo? I think you stalked her. Claire looked up at me then, eyes bloodshot and wide. She's going to break him again. And when she does, I'll be the one they remember. Not you. Not her. Me. You're sick, I whispered. No, she said. I'm eternal. And then I saw it. Laid out on the nightstand. Another envelope. Marked with Daniel's name. Ready to be mailed. Inside it? More photos. More twisted stories. Another round of war. Claire wasn't done. She was just arming up. In next chapter, I'll return home and confront Lily because I need the truth. Is Claire lying again? Or is there one last secret my daughter hasn't told me? I drove home with Claire's envelope in my purse like it was a ticking bomb. Inside were 6 photographs. Lily and a man, dark hair, clean-shaven, glasses, meeting at a coffee shop, walking together into a bookstore, sitting in her car with the engine off for a full 40 minutes. No physical contact. No kisses. But close. Too close. One photo was time-stamped 2 weeks ago. Another was taken just 3 days ago when Daniel had come over to bring her flowers. It didn't make sense. After everything we'd been through, after Lily's confession, her grief, Daniel's fragile forgiveness, why now? Why meet someone else now? Unless Claire had staged it all. Unless Lily was lying. I wanted to believe in my daughter. But I had believed in her before, and look where that got us. I walked straight into the living room where Lily was curled on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, reading. She looked up and smiled. And I almost turned around. But I didn't. I sat across from her and placed the envelope on the coffee table. Her smile faded. What's that? She asked. You tell me. She hesitated, then slowly opened it. One glance at the first photo, her hand reaching to touch that man's arm, and her entire body tensed. Where did you get these? She whispered. I didn't answer. She looked at me, her voice shaking. You think I'm doing it again? You think I'm cheating? I think I deserve the truth, I said. You said the man at the hotel meant nothing, that it was a mistake, that you were broken. I was. Then who is this? She looked down. Said nothing. The silence stabbed deeper than any answer. I leaned forward. Lily, I said quietly, if you're still seeing someone, if you've been hiding something again, I need to know. I've gone to war for you. Burned bridges. Buried my own reputation. You owe me the truth. She looked up with glassy eyes. He's not a lover. I froze. Who is he then? She hesitated. Then whispered, he's a therapist. I blinked. A what? She nodded. I didn't want you or Daniel to know. I thought if I admitted I needed help, it would make everything worse. That it would make me weak. Lily, she pulled out her phone and showed me a contact, Dr. Matthew Kessler, clinical therapist. Then she showed me a calendar app. Appointments marked for weeks. Some during lunch breaks. Others after work. I stared, silent, ashamed. You thought I was lying, she said softly. I had to be sure, I said. And now that you are? I reached across and took her hand. I'm sorry. She nodded, but her face didn't soften. It's not your fault, she said. Claire did this. She poisoned everything, even us. We sat in silence, the envelope between us like a dead thing. Then Lily asked something I wasn't expecting. Where is she now? In a motel, I said. Living like a ghost. But she's still watching. She sent this to Daniel too. Lily's eyes went wide. Did he see it? Not yet. She stood, breath quickening. Mom, if he sees those without knowing the truth, I'll stop it, I said. I promise. But I was already too late. Because my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Just 3 words, we need to talk. In next chapter, Eleanor races against the clock to reach Daniel before the poison Claire planted can take root and destroy everything they fought to rebuild. I drove through red lights. I didn't care. My hands gripped the wheel like a lifeline. My eyes scanned the road like a hawk in a storm. Daniel's message, "We need to talk," wasn't a request. It was a sentence. I knew that tone. It was the same voice he used when he came to my house the first time Claire whispered lies into his ear. I arrived at his apartment and pounded on the door before I could even think. It opened slowly, and there he was, Daniel, holding the envelope, his face unreadable, a storm with no sound. He stepped aside and let me in. The moment I entered, I saw it, every photo laid out across the dining table. Lily and the man who was just her therapist. But Daniel didn't know that. Not yet. He stood beside the table, arms crossed. "I want to hear it from you," he said. I nodded, slow and steady. "She's not cheating," I said. "The man in the photo is her therapist. His name is Dr. Matthew Kessler. I've seen the records, the appointments, the contact on her phone." Daniel didn't move. "She didn't tell you because she thought it would make her look unstable. She was ashamed. After everything that happened between you two, she thought needing help meant she'd failed you again." Still, no reaction. She was healing, Daniel. Quietly. She didn't want applause. She just wanted to feel normal again. He finally looked up. "And Claire," he asked, "she sent those to break you again. She knew if she couldn't poison you directly, she'd do it through fear. Doubt." Daniel's jaw clenched. I stepped closer. "She's not in love with anyone else," I said gently. "She never was." He looked down at the photos. "All this time," he said quietly, "I thought I was the one protecting her. But I was just standing in front of a mirror, watching myself bleed." "She still loves you," I said. He finally looked me in the eyes. "I need to ask her," he said. "Then ask her," I whispered. "Please." I drove him back to our house. Lily was waiting by the window. The second she saw him step out of the car, she ran to the porch. They stood there for a long time, neither speaking. Then, slowly, Daniel reached out and pulled her into his arms. No more questions. No more accusations. Just silence. Healing. Home. But I knew better than to celebrate too early, because when I returned to the motel the next day, Claire was gone. The towels in the windows were torn down. The bed was stripped. Her car had vanished. And on the mirror, scrawled in lipstick, were 5 words: "I always finish what I start." In next chapter, Eleanor discovers Claire's final move, and this time, it's not about Lily or Daniel. It's about Eleanor herself. Because revenge always circles back to the beginning. I stood in the empty motel room long after Claire was gone. That lipstick message, "I always finish what I start," felt like it had been written on the inside of my skull. She was gone, but not defeated. Claire never disappeared unless it was on her terms. I returned home in a fog. Everything felt still. Lily and Daniel were in the garden, his hand resting on hers like nothing had ever broken. But I knew better. Something was coming. And then it arrived. That evening, there was a knock on the door. Not the police. Not Claire. Worse. A man in a navy suit. Clipboard. Badge. "Eleanor Whitford?" he asked. "Yes. I'm with Adult Protective Services. We've received an anonymous report about coercive elder abuse, financial manipulation, and mental instability in this residence." My blood froze. "What?" He handed me a form, a full report, filed in my name, accusing me of threatening Lily, of stealing money from Daniel, of interfering with their marriage, of faking injuries to garner sympathy. I couldn't breathe. "This is a mistake," I said. "This is a lie." He raised an eyebrow. "Do you have any history of mental illness, ma'am?" My knees buckled. "No," I said. "Of course not. Do you take any medication for emotional distress?" I didn't answer fast enough. Because yes, I had taken sleeping pills. After Claire first broke in. After the nightmares began, the man made a note. "We'll need to conduct a formal interview," he said. "And you may want to consider legal representation." He left a card. And then he was gone. I stood in the foyer, shaking. Lily came to the door, confused. "Who was that?" I told her. She turned pale. "Claire," she whispered. She flipped the story. "She's making you look like the one who's obsessed." I nodded slowly. It was brilliant, diabolical, and devastating. She knew if she couldn't break me physically, she'd do it with something worse: doubt, disbelief. She wanted to smear my name, ruin my reputation, make everyone, even Lily, second-guess everything I'd done. She wasn't trying to destroy my daughter anymore. She wanted to erase me. But she made one mistake. She underestimated a mother who had already lost everything once. Because the next move wasn't hers. It was mine. In next chapter, the final chapter, I confront Claire one last time, and this time, there will be no forgiveness. Only consequences. Only justice. Because no matter how clever the spider, the flame always finds the web. Yes, you read it right. My daughter-in-law manipulated my son-in-law to divorce my daughter, and I took revenge. But what she never saw coming was this: I didn't need to destroy her. She did that all by herself. After the Adult Protective Services officer left, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I made tea. Because when someone writes a false story about you, there's only one way to win: you tell the real one louder. And with proof. I went to work. That night, I opened the folder I'd been building since this nightmare began. Photos, notes, emails, screenshots, audio files. Claire had left fingerprints all over everything. Dozens of messages to Daniel, pretending to warn him about Lily. In those same messages, she admitted watching them, mentioned times and dates only a stalker would know. Voicemails she left on my landline, slurred, venomous, unhinged. She forgot I never deleted a thing. And then, the final piece, a digital receipt. From the print shop. For the envelope she mailed to Adult Protective Services, with my name forged on the sender's line. Her credit card. Her login. Her signature. Claire wasn't just sloppy, she was arrogant. And now I had her boxed in. I packaged everything neatly in a legal folder, printed with tabs and timestamps. Lily helped. Daniel too. Even the officer who returned days later was stunned silent when I dropped the whole mountain on his lap. "You don't just have a defense," he said. "You've got a prosecution." But I wasn't done. Because revenge isn't satisfying if you don't look the person in the eye. So I arranged a meeting. I knew where she was. She'd slithered into a women's shelter in another town, claiming I'd ruined her life and made her homeless. I didn't show up with police. I came alone. She didn't recognize me at first. Her face was sunken. Her lips cracked. Still playing victim, still draped in a shawl of self-pity like it was designer silk. "Eleanor," she said, tilting her head like I was the crazy one. "You came to finish me off?" "No," I said calmly. "I came to give you a gift." She blinked. I handed her a copy of the report. All of it. The full record of everything she'd done. "You can keep this," I said. "Frame it. Read it at night. Use it to remember how close you came to winning." She tried to laugh, but her voice cracked. "You're not the hero, Eleanor." "No," I said. "I'm the mother who stopped running." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't press charges. I didn't need to. Because I'd taken something from Claire she could never get back: control. The rumors stopped. The accusations vanished. Adult Protective Services cleared my name in writing. Daniel and Lily finally moved in together again, quietly, gently. No spectacle. Just healing. And me? I planted roses in the backyard. Started reading again. Made coffee each morning without checking the locks. One afternoon, Lily sat beside me, eyes soft. "You saved us," she said. I shook my head. "No," I whispered. "I just made sure no one stole you from me again." And in that moment, for the first time in years, I forgave myself. Not because I was perfect, but because I'd finally stopped letting someone else write the ending of my story. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to Whispers and Wills. Every woman deserves to be heard, and some of us have waited a lifetime to speak.